I bought this catalog from BAM. It's just an interesting way to present people's work and for showing the catalog. So I just thought that was fascinating. Anyway, so that's where I first saw his work. And then in 2014, James' work was featured in Undercover Stories, The Secret Lives of Books, a show I curated for Art East Gallery in Issaquah. And in that exhibit, the goal was to show as many different kinds of book structures as we could in that space, and James was the only one that was excavating books. And so the majority of James's artwork is reductive. We're used to putting things together and on top of canvases and into the makeup, and so James takes away the negative process. And so his work, he takes commonplace objects and alters them by removing parts or fragmenting and reconstructing them. And his he calls this ultra process book excavation. And so he leaves the book bound and doesn't remove the pages, and instead he reveals the contents of what's in the book by cutting away sections and removing pages. And so he'll explain his process, and there'll be time for questions and answers after James's presentation. James's work can be seen at 23 Sandy Gallery in Portland, and he brought some brochures, and he has a business card here for you. And tonight, he'll be explaining his process, and you'll be doing a little demo.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And so I'm turning it over to you.
Like she said, you can grab these. 23 Sandy had a group of other galleries in Portland printed these up, so it has the address and info on the gallery where you can. She always has some of my work. She has kind of odd hours because she takes books from the gallery and travels around with them in the suitcase and brings them to special collections, librarians, and art events and stuff. So, double check to see if they're open, because sometimes she's not around because she's out doing her thing. But anyway, yeah, I went to University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee for my undergraduate degree, and in my printmaking class we had an alternative printmaking, and in that class we had to do some altered photographs, and so that kind of got me into the idea of taking objects and just altering them and starting with something and taking away and creating a new object. And it ended up leading to these books. We also visited the Special Collections Library there, and they had a really nice collection of artist books, and they had some magazines that an artist had taken parts out of and added things into, and so I kind of stepped into that, used that as a launching point to alter some of my own magazines, and started cutting some of the pages away and doing this similar process to create a new artwork out of the contents. So none of the pages of the book excavations are moved. All the content is the original bound content of the book. So I just cut away to reveal that. This book is the latest book that I finished, and I still have it. It's over there on the table. If you haven't gotten a chance, you can take a look at it in person. And it's an old encyclopedia from 1910, so actually an antique. It's the oldest book that I've excavated, and it was given to me by, I used to work at Allison Ross in Seattle. I don't know if anyone knows, it's a great frame shop in Seattle, in Soto, and Carrie Ross, it belonged to her grandmother, and she gave me 3 of the books and said, if you don't cut these up, I want them back. so I have 2 more to go. Otherwise, I'll have to give those ones back to her. So I look, when I'm selecting books, I, look through. I've always been fascinated with old engravings and old printmaking books. So I've always collected books with cool old prints in them. And so I'll look through and see, do I think this book will work for my process? And think, how do the pictures layer up? But the process is organic, so as I'm cutting through, I kind of, the composition evolves. Some of the things that I think might work end up being included, but then maybe later I cut down to a lower part and find something, a lot of times I'll flip open the book and see how it lines up before I cut into the next page. And sometimes I'll include something and then keep it for several pages. So I cut into the cover and then I'm cutting each page sequentially from the top back. And this one has 2 sides. So I did one side first and then did the other side afterwards. And then it just, this one will end up being displayed like this, maybe on a little riser with a slant. And it's already, I'm working with some collectors in Portland, ended up purchasing this, and so we're going to work together on a display. But a lot of times I just build a shadow box like the one on the table over here to display them, and I'll paint the edges shut of the pages so that they can be wall mounted, so that otherwise the pages or the covers of the pages will start sagging, and just changes the whole alignment of all of the work. But this has some interesting faces in it. There's Shakespeare's peeking out up here, and then this is either, I think his name is William the Horned or William the Silent, and there's 2, Mary Tudor, and I don't know, these people here, that's the siege of Antwerp. So this encyclopedia was part of, I can't remember how many volumes there were, but a lot of this encyclopedia has to do with the Protestant Revolution. So on this side we have Joan of Arc, and there's a bishop, and lots of holy war stuff is going on. So lots of warring history as we do, but each book, kind of has its own theme built in, so it's kind of fun in that way. There's built-in sort of trivia with each excavation. So I was working in a coffee shop in Portland, and I met a man, Alan White. He did a little photo essay, and this is one of the photos. So I just illustrated that. See, so sometimes I'll open up and close it to see how things align when I'm working on it. So I was just demonstrating how it looks. They're not really meant to. I mean, it's kind of too fragile to display open in a real exhibition setting. So they end up a lot of times just getting sealed up, unless some special collections librarians prefer them to just not be like in a frame, so they can be used for, to show students and stuff. But the end product is not really meant to be handled, but it is kind of fun to look at it, see